Okay, so now the recording really is in progress. And I'll say again, welcome to the panel. We are recording it. Thank you to our three panelists who have founded different kinds of technology for the coaching world. And let's get started using, we'll use the raise hands feature as we go through the discussion. Please stay on mute when you're not participating in the discussion. And before we introduce the three panelists, let's do very quick introductions of ourselves so that the panelists have a sense of the audience and group that has joined them to learn about their technology. And our intros really should be quite short, really just a name. And one of the things about FCC is that we do try to bring together all parts of the coaching system, whether you're a coach, whether you're a supervisor. So please name and what's the hat you wear in this system of ours that is going through these changes. So I'll go first, and then I'll call on my two colleagues in FCC to role model what is a really quick intro so that we reserve most of our time for the panelists. So Carol Braddick, I'm a coach practitioner, and I'm very actively involved in the future of coaching, particularly on the tech work stream. Ingrid?
Yep. Hi, and Carol, I apologize because I interrupted you just as you were going to start your little update of the market. So we'll come back to that.
Good, thank you.
So hi, Ingrid Pope. So I'm also an independent practitioner and so represent that part of the market. And thank you so much, everyone, for being here.
Alex P.
Yeah, hi, everyone. Alex Popa. Also an FCC member, involved in tech work stream, independent coach, formerly sort of organizational sponsor of coaching, and also formerly coaching body board member, and with a particular interest in technology. So thank you.
Okay, so nice example of wearing multiple hats. Adina?
Adina Terry. Had executive career and business coaching, interest in organization development and entrepreneurship, also business psychologist, and strong interest in technology, impact of technology in business particularly, and also ethics, the ethics aspect of technology.
Okay,
as it
great.
impacts everything.
Thank you. Shona?
And I'm an independent, sorry, representing myself as an independent.
Shona.
Hi, Shona Hodgson. I work for Nestle and I lead one-to-one coaching in the market. So I look after a cohort of professional internal coaches as well as building coaching capability in the market, and I'm an accredited coach. Thank you.
Great. So we have the voice of people who are working inside organizations with both internal and external coaches. Good. Okay, looking then, Anton.
Hi, I'm an occasional executive coach, and I'm untrained, so I'm not particularly proud of that, but I've been doing it for 35 years. In between most of my career, which has been talent organizational consulting. I'm a psychologist by background, in fact, not a million miles away from the sort of work that Adina does. I fell into, and it's too long a story, chairing a whole series of conferences on AI and machine learning over the last 6 or 7 years, found myself on the speaker circuit. My particular interest is in the people tech space, which is much wider than just the coaching tech space, and have run and occasionally run workshops for HR leadership teams on the impact of technology on the way in which they work. I've also done some research into HR's adoption of AI and machine learning and developing maturity models to understand actually how HR functions are dealing with these technologies.
Okay, thank you, Anton. And Selena.
Hi everyone, I'm Selena. I run an organisation called Aziz Corporate, so I'm not a coach, but we are a coaching provider of coaches and mentors. So I'm kind of the middle person. I'm interested in tech in our business to help our clients. There we go.
Okay, great. Welcome, Selena. Sam.
Hello, hi everyone. Yeah, I'm Sam Isaacson, Global Director of Consulting for Coach Hub, which is a big global digital coaching provider. I'm also a coach myself, and I sit on the UK ICF Technology Working Group, and I've written a book about coaching with technology, and so I have the profession in mind as well.
Okay, welcome, Sam. And we have Richard.
Hi, everybody. I'm Richard from the ICF Germany board, and I'm here as both ICF Germany and interested in digitalization, which is my department, let's say. But I'm also here as a coach because I'm very interested in what AI and all these tech stuff would do with my profession.
Great. Thank you, Richard. And Olivier. Olivier.
I'm Olivier. I'm a certified coach. I'm the founder of Pocket Confidant, a startup for coaching technologies. And I'm right now a PhD student in HR at the University Côte d'Azur in south of France.
Great, thank you. Did I cover everyone? I think so. Okay, thanks Ingrid for the reminder. I was saying before that we tried to start off our tech conversations with very quick news updates of any big developments or interesting milestones in how tech and the coaching market are changing. And there are two that I'll share and welcome any others very briefly from anyone on the call. One is that, and Sam will be very familiar with this, is that Coach Hub was listed in a set of top European companies that are projected to be the next round of unicorns. So that lets us know something about how quickly the digital platforms that offer human-to-human coaching, as well as other types of coaching, are growing. And the other that I would share is that there's an ICF chapter in the US that has sponsored two sessions for coaches to learn about those digital platforms like a Coach Hub and the others. And one is a session in which they hear from the people that have the founders of the digital platforms, and another is for coaches that have worked with the digital platforms to share their experiences of what it's been like to affiliate with them. So that in particular, the ICF chapter with those two sessions is very much in line with what we try to do here within FCC, is to bring people together to share their experiences working with the different types of business models and technology that are coming into coaching. Anyone else have a very quick update that you'd like to share, speaking or perhaps in chat? Okay, then I think it's time. Let's go to our panelists, because that's really what we're here for. And I'm going to try.
Sorry, Carol, I'm going to interrupt you. Just as because you're the host, if you do see anyone pop up in the waiting room, I think you're the one who needs to let them in. Sorry, I think I might have just heard a ping.
Yes, I did admit Olivier before, and he seems to be coming back in. So I think we're okay. Good, Olivier,
Sorry,
you're with
stop
us.
interrupting.
Okay, no, please do interrupt. That's absolutely fine. Okay, so we have our three panelists. Nicky, who founded the CoachBot Vici, which we will learn some more about. He is a practicing coach. He is also teaches at the University of Stellenbosch Business School in their coaching program, and he is a researcher and has a background in software and engineering. Harry joins us as the founder of Rocky AI and has a background in sales and product management in the tech sector. And Alex joined us as the founder of Ovida, which is my shorthand word for that is conversational analytics, but you'll hear a better way of describing that from him. And he also has a background in founding and as CEO of digital businesses, including one that focuses on experiential learning. So I'm going to move over to our slides for a minute so that we can hear from each of our panelists to get a quick overview of what their business is about. Okay. Here's a quick way we thought we might all get just a very practical grounding in what each of the businesses are and products are bringing to our coaching market. That what is it they were founded to help? Who do they help? What do they help them with? And what's the outcome they're trying to support with that product or tool or solution? And what would be an example of a typical use case? Or if you're in a trial period or running pilots at this point, who's involved in those trials and pilots? As members of the coaching system, whether you're sitting like Shona inside an organization or whether you're a practitioner, we all have an interest in just understanding the practical matter of, well, are you business to business? Are you business to consumer? How do we access what you're bringing to market? And then how do we get up to speed on it so that we're using it in the most effective way so that it's successful in the way that you've designed it to be? So this is meant just as a very short and practical introduction, and I'll start with Coach Vici and Nicky, please, if you could help us get that practical grounding first.
Yeah, thanks, Karen. Hi, everyone that I haven't greeted yet. Yes, so we have our target market is actually almost everyone that has to do with coaching. So end users of coaching, the general public who wants to be coached, also specifically organizations. So organizations that have coaching programs and want to democratize coaching and make coaching available to a broader audience than just the top executive or managers. Then also coaches. So Coach VD, which we're not talking about today, but that's the second AI coach, is actually a coaching assistant that helps coaches with their clients in between coaching sessions. Yeah, so then we basically, in terms of what was the other question, Carol, around the pilots and how we would roll that out. For Coach Vici, it's available currently for free to the general public for now. It's a limited trial. The idea is then that we on-sell human coaching sessions when people find the AI coaching reaches a limit. But our main focus is shifted to corporates, where we customize Coach Vici with corporate branding, and also in the coaching conversation, we can add links to corporate resources. And we can even add conversations and add parts of the conversation to make the AI Coach Vici a portal into the organization. So definitely working with organizations, customizing it for them. And yeah, I think, and Coach VD would be the same. Coach Vici is based on research, so we'll get into that later on. But we do believe in our pilot also to do a small research portion. So when you roll out, there would be a pilot study where we would decide what to measure before and after to make sure that it fits your environment. And let me pause for there for now.
Okay, thank you. So I've obviously been mispronouncing it. It's VD?
Sorry, there's two. There's Vici is this one, but there's a second product called VD.
VD,
and
okay.
It comes from Veni, Vedi, Vici, the Latin
okay.
for came, saw, and conquered. So yeah, we've got two of them covered.
Okay, great. Okay, let's then hear from Rocky AI. So we get just a quick overview of who uses Rocky AI and how do we get started using it?
So just before that, Anton, you had a question?
Yeah, if I may, I had actually dropped you a note beforehand. What I would, and I suspect others would find particularly helpful, and I didn't really quite hear that with a Vici presentation, and maybe it's coming there, is actually really understanding actually what is the technology that we're talking about here, and what's the user experience. Are we talking about a chatbot interface? Are we talking about natural language processing? Is it a sort of structured script? Are we got recommendation engines? I'd be very keen to actually know what is the technology and actually what's the user experience of engaging with these products. And I'm wondering whether you were fishing for that when you were talking about some examples of application.
Okay, can I suggest then we go back to Nicky so that he can fill in that picture for us on his technology, and then we'll continue with that point as we go through the other two. Is that okay?
Yes, I'm happy to do that.
Okay.
Coach Vici, my chatbots are built on a proprietary chatbot platform. It's provided by a third party. So it's a company in South Africa that have rolled out chatbots to large organizations, service chatbots. So I've got an agreement with them that I use their platform for free for my research. And then when we commercialize it, there's obviously commercial implication. But it's basically a chatbot platform that helps you to quickly assemble conversation flow. So that saves a lot of time. But behind it, there's an API interface to intent recognizers, for example, to machine learning algorithms. And also it's possible to deploy the platform, the front end quite easily to existing messaging platforms. For example, WhatsApp, Telegram, which is becoming more and more popular, Facebook Messenger. There's also a web interface. So it's not a standalone app. We decided not to go that route for many reasons. We use standard instant messaging platforms, and the chatbot platform that I have can easily integrate into that. Is that the amount of detail, Anton, that you wanted?
Absolutely. So, but if I can just follow that on. So the experience, it's a guided conversation.
Yes. Okay. Yes. For now, it's a structured conversation. So we distinguish between retrieval and generative-based AI chatbots. It is a structured conversation, but it has elements of intent recognition. So some of the questions, for example, if there's a free text input, we can go to a back end to interpret the intent, and then the flow of the conversation is guided based on what the person has said. But for now, there's no, I always want to say hardcore machine learning. We need a large database, of course, to train algorithms on that. So it's not that intelligent. So it's a structured conversation with intent recognition obtained from a backend API.
Nicky, that's ideal. That was really, really helpful. Thank you.
So let's then go back to Harry and Rocky AI, please.
Hello, everyone. I'm Harry Novik, founder, creator of Rocky AI. We are a startup, and we created a personal development app for young professionals to develop their positive mindset and their leadership skills. In the app, which is powered by AI, we have basically three elements. One is a digital coach, which is doing daily 5-minute coaching conversations based on personalized growth paths, which you can see on the pictures. That can consist of productivity, communication, other skills, which arrive from positive psychology that we build in. So we help people with daily routines, with daily 5-minute coaching sessions to develop their skills, to become confident, to become strong in the role as upcoming leaders. In addition, the app is in the center is the digital coach, but it has also a recommendation engine. So based on the chats, people receive personalized tips, articles from best-selling books in micro-sized learnings, which are matching to the current chat and the current growth path. And several other functionalities like community support, interaction, and coach support. So the app is designed for individuals, so it works completely autark, but we have the product Rocky for coaches, where actually coaches can set up teams, groups, connect their clients, and remote control Rocky for them, while having also access on insights, data, engagement, notifications, and they even can read the chats. Which would mean, when we're talking about coaches, we also designed a hybrid concept where the daily work can be done by the AI, and it can be connected with a human one-on-one coaching work, which usually happens once a month or less. The product is available, so you can find Rocky AI on app stores, even on Amazon Alexa. You can connect with it. There is a free entry product, but at some point a subscription is kicking in, where our users then become subscribers. For coaches, also Rocky for Coaches is public, and usually coaches, they connect with us via the websites. We have a first meeting where we introduce the product and show them how it works together, and then we basically can set up a program for them for free. But also at some point, then the coaches can integrate Rocky in their practice, become also our subscribers. Technology-wise, it underlying the heart is natural language understanding, which is in-house developed. And basically, we have designed the wheel of life into our understanding tree. And that leads to several other AIs, including the recommendation engine, which then connects on several layers, all those elements and personalization together. Yes, so I guess we have more questions to answer later, but so far, this is Rocky AI, already available. Happy to explain more.
Okay, great. Thank you, Harry. And let's then get a quick grounding in Ovida. Alex.
Can I check before we do that? Anton, do you still have a question, or is that an old hand?
Apologies, that's it's an old hand attached to an old body, actually, but there we go.
Right.
No, that was very helpful again. So I'm primed by Nicky. It's all going beautifully.
Okay, Alex from Ovida.
Yes, hello everyone. So a little bit about Ovida, and I guess to give you a bit of the background where this idea has come from, I did spend quite a bit of my my corporate career, business career at Procter & Gamble, that had a massive internal coaching program for many years already in the mid-2000s and onwards. And I actually qualified there as a Grow coach, and I ended up leading the Grow global coaching program for P&G while I was doing a business role. So it was like my side hustle, but I absolutely loved it. And one of the things that we did there, which informed a lot of what we're doing with Ovida, was when we were training coaches and training trainers, we were doing video reviews. And video reviews was recording people at the time with a VCR, then sitting around and watching them as a full team, forward, backward. So for a 1 hour session, it would take probably 2-3 hours to do the reviews. But the benefit of giving people this time to self-reflect and understand what is going on and give them also feedback was amazing. So a few years ago, we were in a tech conference at Singularity University with Brian, my friend and co-founder, who's also in this example here, and we thought, could we actually use AI and machine learning to help analyze discussions, human discussions, deep human discussions, and find ways to enhance how humans connect. And the reason why we landed very fast on coaching is because he also has some background in coaching. He was in business, but he did coaching at his MBA, and he kept it throughout his career. And we felt that coaching is an area that can really be helped by using more data on how the relationship is working. So how are people really connecting between them? So this platform, what it does at its core, it uses quite a few different tools, some of them commercially available, AI and machine learning tools, some of them that we're building. These are, for example, automatic speech recognition, natural language processing, speed and pace, facial expressions or facial movements rather than expressions per se, interpretation. And what we're doing is we'll record a session, then we run it through our algorithms, and we're able to pick up various data. For example, what you see here, if you see on the left, just below the video, there's this graph. That graph shows the flow of discussion. So blue is the coach, orange is the client, with some key moments. We're able to pick up what we currently call key moments in a coaching discussion. And we're able to help the coach and the client get a very fast perspective on what happened in the session. So let's say we record a 1 hour session currently. It takes about an hour and a half to process it. We could be also doing this faster. And I think when we charge for it, we will be doing it much faster. We'll be doing it in minutes. But currently, people can log in. They can record the coaching session with the client. We operate on the principles of full and informed consent under EU GDPR. So that's really, really important for us. We rely on the trust of the coach and the client on keeping the data private, and secure. So we don't advertise on there. We don't need anything else other than analyze it for the session, and we will delete it immediately the moment the client wants, of course. And through that, we want to effectively create objective and measurable data to help improve those coaching interactions, help people self-reflect, become more self-aware, and within that, promote growth. And we started initially to want to do this for the coach and targeting coach and coach training. And this still is a big part of our main use because we can do this really fast. But what we realized is actually, there's a big benefit for clients because no client will ever watch a 1-hour video of the coaching discussion, but they're very likely to watch a 1 minute or 2 minutes that has been selected through the algorithm or through the algorithm and the coach to help them advance on what they're doing. But also there's some really, really interesting applications on how do we help people in general get more coaching skills. So what's really great about using data and coaching discussions is you have great coaches that use listening and empathy and fundamental communication soft skills that we know businesses really need as well. So at Procter & Gamble, for example, we used to do coaching and training for coaches, but we also did coaching skills training for all managers. So what we want to do is we want to provide a way for the coaching discussion to become better, the coach to grow, and also want to provide a way for more people to be trained on coaching or the coaching skills and listening and empathy and those core communication, what we call soft skills, but with data.
Great, thank you. So we have technology that actually engages people in a coaching conversation. We have technology that uses content and positive psychology to support development. And we also have a new way of looking at what's actually happening in coaching conversations. That's what we've got on this call, but there's a couple of connections among the panelists as well as one of our participants I'd like to mention because they're both good examples of how we continue to go up the learning curve through collaborations as there's more technology in our market. Nicky, Olivier, and Harry are all part of the ICF's working group on AI standards in coaching. So they've already shared a white paper on what the scope of their and purpose of their work will be, and the more detailed guidelines should be out shortly. My understanding is that it might be April. So we've got a group looking at that specifically in the context of coaching. And then Nicky and Alex have also been discussing some research possibilities, and I don't know if it's possible to mention anything about that at this point, Nicky and Alex. I know it's early days.
I think for sure, I'd love to say, I'd just like to say that during the course of when you invited us for this, Carol, because Nicky and myself, we did a podcast for the Association of Coaching Series in Technology, and we ended up connecting and realizing that we have so much common values and passion for AI and coaching that we ended up actually agreeing to come closer to this journey. So Nicky is now officially Ovida's AI and coaching advisor, and we just started building over the last week some research proposal. Nicky, as I'm sure you know, has done some I would say quite unique and very robust RCT level of research in coaching, which I think coaching desperately needs. So our hope of working together, I'll let Nicky talk more about this, is to actually create really robust, objective ways of measuring things and measuring effectiveness and efficacy using some, gold standards on how to run research. So, Nicky.
Yeah, it's a small world. It seems a small and exciting world, and I love the collaboration. So when Alex reached out to me, I just thought this is an amazing tool that we can certainly use in our own coaching school as well. But yeah, so we're looking at a few studies where we want to do the randomized controlled trial longitudinal study. To actually see a number of things. We want to, for example, understand whether coaches' awareness of some of these parameters that we measure, whether there's a link between that and coaching experience, for example. So are MCC coaches and ICF really better coaches than the entry-level coaches? So we could start looking at that, and then just basically whether, as Alex was saying, whether when you expose yourself as a coach to feedback on your coaching, in terms of, for example, talk time and a number of questions, whether that awareness helps you to become a better coach. So we've designed a few studies that we hopefully kick off anytime soon. Because just on the side, my passion really about all of this is research, and it's to provide empirical evidence for what we speculate on. I want us to avoid the wild west of coaching that article was written in 1996, where it really was a wild west. Anyone called himself a coach. So my small contribution is to, through rigorous academic research, help us to find out what is possible and what's not possible in this space.
Great, and we're always hoping in FCC that as we bring together people from across the system, that more of these opportunities for collaboration emerge, and that those who are doing that kind of collaboration and research bring it back to FCC, so we all continue moving up on the learning curve. I'm going to stop the share at this point and open it up for questions from any of the participants. Alex P. from FCC, Ingrid, and I have prepared some questions that we thought about in advance, but if there's any one of the participants that would like to jump in with something, you're more than welcome to. Any questions for our panelists at this point, for Nicky, Alex, or Harry?
Well, if I could just fire away.
Fire away.
I am constantly intrigued by the degree to which people actually do commit to self-managed learning. But I'm also aware that there is a half-life to engagement and involvement. And I'm just wondering, what are the experiences of the three different product developers here about people's continued commitment to the use of their product? Perhaps some initial enthusiasm to I don't know what. So what are your views really on that engagement, hooking people onto that and sustaining their use through to, ideally, in a sense, the end goal that you were hoping they would achieve? And if there is attrition, why do you think there is attrition?
So, Harry, do you mind starting us off with that? Because if I understand it correctly, there's quite a lot of self-management, self-driven learning in Rocky AI. And so if you could start us off, then we can also hear from Alex and Nicky.
Perfect. Yes. So Rocky AI is very consumer driven. So which means the retention, the engagement is super important. Different to a tool which completes a simple, or what means a simple, completes a function that you need, maybe as coach. The consumer-oriented application chatbot needs to create a sensation so that the engagement stays on. So what we try to create this sensation is that the chat, the app, and everything around this is built up to create feelings of accomplishment, feelings of being listened to, feelings of getting ideas and being inspired. And now it depends on the quality of that, how much you can engage, of course, the individual. But especially for consumer-oriented product, it's very important that they get a value out of that. Our product is a subscription product. So at the end, our customers pay for talking with a chatbot. As we have these subscribers, probably there's not many apps out there where people pay for a chatbot. So what we try to achieve is give this little dose of inspiration, the little dose of motivation, the little dose of creating paths by good coaching questions, which match to the current mood and the personal growth path and match to the personality. As better this is, as better the result and outcome, of course, is with the engagement. But also I can say, talking with a machine about personal topics is not yet for everyone. Two reasons. One is, of course, trust. Second is that, yeah, just for some people, it's just simply nonsense. Why should I talk with a machine when I can talk with a human? And the third thing is also that mostly today, when you talk with Apple Siri, you use it for giving commands. Search for that information, give me that insight, turn on the lights, and so on. That's what we are, that's what we learn. That's how our technical environment today is. But now if you have a coaching bot, it's turning that around. The machine is kind of taking control and guiding and leading you. And that's a new experience. Not everyone is ready yet for that. And so this market is evolving until this is becoming a normal. So these are my views from today. So you cannot convince everyone to use a machine for self-coaching, but those who are open for it, and there is many, because simply having even a machine listening to you and helping you is a help that most of us in the daily life don't have. And if this is done well, you can create a great solution, great product, and provide great help.
I can maybe add to that. Thanks, Harry. That's a very good point you're making there. So again, I did research on this because I wanted to understand what factors will influence people's adoption of this technology. So I used something called the Technology Adoption Framework. It's a very well-known theoretical framework in information systems. In fact, I used the unified theory of acceptance and use of technology. And we measured 5 things. So we asked people to have one conversation with Coach Vici. By the way, Coach Vici, I didn't say it in the intro, is a goal-oriented coaching chatbot. So it's based on goal theory and the GROW model. We'll talk about that later, I guess, but it was specifically designed to do only one thing. Because my belief is that currently artificial narrow intelligence, which is what we're working with, is not sophisticated enough to do many things. Anyway, we asked people to have a conversation and we measured a number of things. What the results show that the most important factor that influences adoption is performance expectation. So people must believe that this chatbot or this technology will help them. They must believe in the performance of it. So you can help that by, in the conversation, in the introduction of the chatbot, for example, you should tell people how well it works and that they're not wasting their time using this. That was the one thing. Second factor was social influence. So technology adoption measures whether people are affected by what other people think of them using the technology. And we were surprised to learn that most of the people, it was a factor that rated high. So when we roll this out in organizations, we recommend that you have people that are early adopters, people that are champions for the tool, because when they talk about it and they socialize it, other people will follow. The third factor was the infrastructure required. So in our case, we don't have an app like Harry does. We use Facebook Messenger, Telegram, WhatsApp, and we found that it is important that the people must have access to it. The Telegram, for example, is fairly new instant messaging service. I personally love it. It's more secure and it's not owned by Facebook. Like WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, but people must have access to it. So it's important that the technology infrastructure is there. What was not of importance is ease of use. Everybody thought that's a no-brainer. It was easy enough to use. And we also measured trust, and it showed that trust was not an issue. I was worried that people might find the compromise of confidentiality and information and so on was an issue. It wasn't an issue. So technology adoption model tells us its performance, social influence, and the infrastructure. What we do though is we're shifting our focus now away from the general public to corporates and organizations. And there we find it helps, adoption is improved if you embed it in a program. So for example, because Coach Vici is a goal-oriented chatbot, it helps with, we also sell it as a performance management tool. So when you have your one-on-one conversation with your manager at the beginning of the year to set your KPIs, key performance indicators, some people only chat with the manager again at the end of the year. But if Coach Vici is part of the process where they are sort of required to check in every month and reminded by the manager, it helps them. The same with coaching sessions, Coach VD, which is the other chatbot that helps coaches. The coach would encourage the client to have a conversation with Coach VD in between coaching sessions. So I think it's important for us to embed it as part of the process instead of leaving it up to people to just use it themselves.
Can I jump in? Thanks, Nikki. Because Shona, I see you had a question, and I just want to make sure that we give you the opportunity to speak. And I don't know whether your question related to Harry or whether now is a good time to bring it in.
Well, it related to everybody, and actually Nicky started to answer it a little bit in what he was saying about how he integrates the system into programs within organizations. But I suppose my initial question when I put my hand up is this something that you encourage individuals to self-select, or is it something that you give to them and ask them to follow the program and that's given to them by their organizations? Is it self-selected or is it assigned?
Well, when we did the research, we had to really encourage people. We wanted them to stay on and get the results. So there was a bit of a motivation there. Because we're not publicly facing, or that's not our focus, it isn't self-select. So in this case, I would say the programs that we're running people are encouraged to use it by, they obviously can't be forced to use it, but there's definitely a nudge from the organization to use the tool as part of the program.
Thank you.
Alex, the context of adoption engagement for the analyzing coaching conversations is a bit different, because it's taking place within coach training programs, or coaches are learning more about their coaching. Can you give us any perspectives you want to share on Anton's question about adoption, engagement, and attrition?
Yeah. Absolutely. So just to let everyone know, so we launched our beta version of the platform end of January. We've had already hundreds of coaches recording sessions on it. So we don't have yet, a year data to know fully about the attrition, but we have some very good perspectives on early feedback. And we have already a few coaching organizations that are on trial, plus a university, plus a big corporate that is actually in the process. So what I'm going to tell you now is always with a pinch of salt, because unless you see usage over a period of time, you need to confirm. But I'll tell you what we have found out so far, and also the principles, which I think are really robust. So what we're trying to create here is a way for the coach to, from the moment they start coaching as a new trainee, and hopefully much further down the career, to constantly have a chance to have feedback and perspective and data on how they're doing. This is something that if you think about a ton of other professions out there over the last 10, 15 years, like if you're a professional athlete, right? There's no way you don't have this as part of your everyday. It's just impossible. You cannot even compete anymore. That's why also sport has advanced so much. Of course, it happens in sales and some other areas, but it has also happened up to a level, in education, right? So there's a lot more data and metrics around that, especially for the e-learning, and coaching hasn't really been helped from that yet. So our hope here is to create a tool that people keep on using, and currently that is the feedback, because I can ongoing, every time I do a session, I learn something about myself, I keep on improving. And as long as we do it in a simple and fast way, so it's not complex, and it's something that can be part of the discussion, we feel that we will have a very high repeat rate of people using it. We know that on average, coaches, we've done a lot of, before building the platform, a lot of service and also one-on-ones with people on how much time does it take to take a bit of notes before or after the session, right? Not everyone does it, but people that do, it might be 5 minutes to recap or 10 minutes before. We're now eliminating the need for anyone to keep notes during the session, and they can actually, instead of recapping it or trying to remember from the notes, they can just look at quickly at what happened over the last session and immediately get the benefit. So this is something that we feel that is an ongoing process, in a similar way that once someone gets into the process and they see how they improve, there's no particular reason to stop it, because the whole principle of coaching is continuous growth. So we know that there are some cases where this is even more pronounced. So our first very fast intro has been from people that train coaches, both within the corporate, but also in the coaching training schools that are out there. Also very big on supervision. To give you an idea, we've had supervision and mentorship coaching. So we've had people quoting us that, if they were to review or either sit down with someone for an hour and listen to a triad, or review a session that's late, it's a 1 hour recording, it would take them up to 2 hours or even longer, and they can do it in around 20 minutes onto a platform. So there's a big opportunity needed to scale up the capacity of mentorship, supervision, and coach training, which we think is, you know, a good reason for people to come in because it saves them time and it's arguably better feedback. It's very hard to remember exactly what happened in a session and tell someone, oh, you know, that happened there, what, and people need to remember it, right? And our memory versus what actually happened is very far. If you share with someone a 1 or 2 minute clip, we say, hey, look at what's going on here. What could have done differently, right? That's a very powerful way for people to grow. So that's for from a coach perspective. So we generally think that this is going to be a tool that people can use ongoing to get, so they can see their data, so they can get ongoing feedback. For sure, coaching, training, and the mentorship supervision is important. And then for businesses, the discussions we're having for coaching skills is something that's around, for example, one of the very, very big businesses we're currently engaging with, they know that, for example, managers that use more open questions in one-on-ones have better relationships, right, with their clients. They already measure that. So being able to have some data around it, so how you can help people have better relationships using coaching skills, we know that's something that is an ongoing people development principle, right? And all big companies that care about their employees, they want to find ways to do that. And what we're saying, hey, we can help them do that and do this in a way that's measurable, has objective data behind this, and we can show you how someone started here and now is going there, which I think is something that doesn't really exist that much, apart from some sales, very specific sales applications, but not in everyday sort of you know, engagement and communication.
Thanks, Alex. So I was just going to say, we've got 2 questions lined up. Or Carol, did you have a follow-up for Alex before we go to the questions?
One comment I wanted to make is, you know, for certain types of technology that are coming into the market, we can have a real-time picture of how engaged people are, how much activity is actually taking place. So that gives us gives us immediate opportunities to look at what kind of intervention we might want to make and when and how in order to affect engagement. I see that Alex P has his hand raised, so let's go with his question and then we'll come to you, Adina.
I think Adina was there earlier, sorry.
Yeah, Adina was there first.
Yeah,
okay, sorry.
Yeah, please.
Well, go ahead, Adina.
Okay. Very quickly, first question, a bit general. Is there any room for gamification? And this is to all 3 of you. Gamification or gamification techniques in the way of engaging and motivating the participants. Maybe yes, maybe not. The second comment was for Alex. How is this recording and feedback and viewing yourself different from what I was doing 25 years ago at IBM, where we are doing presentation training and we're videoed and we're looking at it? So it's not a facetious question. I'm just trying to fish for the smart AI data processing behind the scene, not just simply I look at the video and yes, of course I see and I can improve. Yeah, so it's really, where is the smart new technology coming in? Because this thing of looking at yourself is quite old in terms of training. Thank you.
Okay, so
can I answer?
Well, one question on gamification for all 3 panelists, and then Alex, yes, if you'd like to start first with the second question, which is about where's the smart in this?
Yeah, so I think there's 2 aspects to this. First of all, the really practical aspect is, yes, Adina, you're right, people have done this, and that's why I did this as well, and I saw the experience, but the reality is that people don't do it every day. And the reason why they don't do it is because it's difficult, right? So first of all, there's a really practical aspect, which is we make this very, very simple. This is as simple as you do your session, after an hour, you sit down with a cup of coffee for a few minutes and you get the benefit there and then anyway, right? So you get your text, you get some analytics. But additionally, what we are developing is by being able to pick up key moments, we're able to guide someone. You don't need to go through the video and spend an hour trying to remember and find out what's happening. We're able to already cut a video of 1 hour or an hour and a half to, let's say, 5 to 10 key moments that someone can review. And it takes, like, let's say it's a minute per key moment, 10 minutes maximum. So we are accelerating massively the way that someone can engage with that, so we can make it much more the daily thing as opposed to before and after. Additionally, we can securely save it and share it with the supervisor. And we can do those things that, you know, were not just possible because of the technology. And finally, what we're doing, which is also very new, is we start having concrete data. For example, we are able to extract the most simple thing, talk time. What percentage time does the coach talk versus the client, right? We already know that new coaches versus experienced coaches are very, very different than that. What we also know is that when you ask them afterwards, how much did you speak roughly in the session, give us a percentage, people massively underestimate how long they speak in a session, right? So that's just one example of data. We're building a lot more than that. Or for example, open versus closed questions, interjections, moments of mirroring, other mirroring language. So when client says a word, coach says a word, client says a word, or mirroring body language, right? When someone goes like that, and you're doing a little bit like that as well, because we're compelled as human beings to do the mirroring, right? So we're creating a data behind about how does this connection between this client and the coach is working at a rapport level. So I think this is my sort of.
Yeah, no, so you're looking for trends and patterns, and you accumulate behaviors that may be typical in a certain way, and then how do you qualify whether that is good or bad? As in, do you have a standard, whereas how many times do I do this or I don't do this? What is good or bad? Now that you know that I do that every time, what is...
So that's how we're building. There's two aspects to this. The one aspect, which is there's some objective things. For example, if in this session suddenly I go like, when I do this, right? That objectively is something different. It happened in the session. I haven't so far done this, right? So that's different. So there's some things that are just observable, right? So we can actually pick up patterns that are completely non-biased because just things that are different. And if for example, we have a lot of Italians that are, there's an Italian business that's a Whiplash network that's actually trialing. If an Italian speak like that the whole time, right, and it's much more excited, then the pattern for them, their base is going to be different to an Asian person that might be speaking like that, and then a smile might be the biggest difference in the session, right? So the first of all is objective. The second one, which we're developing, and also is the work that we're also doing with Nicky and more to understand how to develop it, is the self-labeling. So our platform allows people to come back, look at those key moments, tell us what was relevant, what was not, delete what was not relevant, add what was relevant. And we're now starting to add the elements of, what was really important for you here. Or if they share it, if they share came on with the client and they discuss about it, we can pick up what is it that was important for them. So we're building two things in parallel. And we're trying to do this also not to bias our algorithms, which is, as you know, a big problem in AI, because it's very easy to go down the path of saying, I'll give you an example. And sorry, I'm taking a bit of time, but I'll just finish this because there's a lot of questions here. If we use the facial expression analysis tools that are in the market, they all try to interpret emotions, right? We've run our coaching sessions to that, and they don't do a great work because a coaching discussion is a much deeper, complex discussion. So if you bias it and you say, this is my base, I don't understand what's happening. But if you say, hey, I'm observing what's different and asking the subjective experience of the people involved, you have much better chances of creating algorithms that can really help interpret that.
Yeah.
That, and I'll close my gamification point. Yes, absolutely. There's a lot of space for gamification. For example, can we get this fast to people to say, hey, this is interesting, yes, no, give them rewards to engage more in the rest. And that's fundamental to us. I mean, we know that this to be useful, any good educational and training tool needs to be fun, right? So absolutely core to us are doing that. And thank you for the question.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Harry, would you like to jump in on gamification or other points?
Yes. So this point of gamification is very important, in particular for those products which are designed for the individual. Even you use the best coaching question and the best reply to somebody's answer. If somebody is talking with a phone, it's very easy to put difficult thoughts or any kind of effort they have to do away. If a human is talking in a coaching conversation and asking a power question, the other side has to respond, cannot run away because they are sitting with a person. So you cannot overcome this human connection with no matter how good your AI is. And this is where gamification is mandatory to reward, to make the journey, to unlock whatever is necessary, those mechanics to keep the person on the phone in a good way, of course. Not to make the person addicted, but to support the phase of putting effort. And that's why you need that, especially for those consumer-oriented products.
I can maybe just add, I agree with everything that Alex and Harry has said. I of course want to research it before I put it in my chatbot. So I have a number of, the advantage of being at university is I have a number of master's students and PhD students that are doing research in this field. And one of the topics that we are looking at is the role of gamification in AI coaching. So it's early days, but I hope to get some findings so that we can all base our next generation AI coaches on that.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. All of you. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you. Alex P., I see you have your hand raised.
Yes, I mean, I have so many questions, but let me just pick up one. Nicky, you talked about, and maybe this is for all of us, but specifically to the stuff you're developing through Coach Vici, you talked about how it's much better to have it an integral part of the organization and to really make it stick in that way. And I'm wondering, what organizational data would you feed Coach Vici to make it an integral part? How much context does the coach bot need or benefit from?
Yeah, so it can be from nothing to a lot. So if organizations don't have any information they want to share, there's one organization, for example, they're very concerned about data sharing. So we literally have a process whereby people just use the bot, it's confidential, it's not shared back to the organization or the other way around. One of the other clients already have a tool where performance goals are captured into an HR system. And for that, we want the bot to retrieve at least just the goals that the person are working on and monitoring it. Another organization has to categorizes 11 or 10 forms of leadership development that they want to, and that person will select which one. So we integrate to some extent to HR. So we can do deep integration, also in terms of logging into the system, up to no integration. I don't have enough data on that to say which works better, but certainly both are, everything, well, that's all possible. So we're looking into that still as well.
Something else you wanted to throw in, Alex P.?
Thank you, Carol, for the opportunity. Yes, definitely. I can maybe a question for all of the panel about measuring success of the product. I'm wondering how you're sort of capturing the effectiveness of your solutions. Of course, if it's a subscription-based model, you're looking at subscription and sort of satisfaction, but I'm wondering more broadly, how do you consider if coaching is effective?
And can I add a twist to that, please, of how you're doing that now, and what is it you hope to be able to capture and report back on in the next year or two, or however long it takes to get to another milestone in terms of understanding success? Who would like to start with that?
Well, I guess I can start since I'm the researcher around here. So
good. Thank you, Nicky.
We didn't launch Coach Vici. Yeah, we didn't launch Coach Vici commercially until I had done essentially a 2-year-long series of studies. So in that sense, we decided that we wanted to measure certain things. We also always aimed for the gold standard, which is randomized control longitudinal. So we have a control group we have a group that uses. Is my internet unstable? Or can you follow me? Is it good? Okay. So I always try to have a group that uses the chatbot and a group that doesn't. So that's the randomized control. And then we have multiple measures that we do. So we measured, for example, with Coach Vici, goal attainment, resilience, psychological well-being, stress, things like that. So we do that. We did it over a period of a year. So that's what I try to do before I launch a new product, which of course takes time and effort. When we launch with clients, so we know it works because we've done this extensive study that is busy undergoing a second round review, which showed that Coach Vici was as effective as a human coach over a 10-month period to help people with goal attainment. We were really surprised when we saw this, couldn't believe it. And then when we went into the detail, we understood why. Because a coach doesn't always follow goal theory to the specific steps. A coach might not always be available, or it's expensive. So with Coach Vici, there's more frequency of engagement. The fact that you write down a goal by typing it into the bot also means, so we could link all our results back to goal theory, which has been around since the 1960s. So we know it works. What we do for organizations, if they want to, we do a small pilot, and then we also decide with them before and after what we want to measure. We do qualitative and quantitative. So we might do interviews with people after they've used the product, analyze that for themes, or we could again measure something before and after. What is interesting though, I did one study recently where we gave Coach to unemployed youths in South Africa. So the unemployment rate among youths is something like 70%, 70. It's a tragedy in this country. And we were hoping that by them using Coach Vici, it might help them to set goals, to find a job, and get a bit of a head in life. We only had 3 months to do the study because the master students that I supervise are shorter times than the PhD. And we found that 3 months is not enough. It's not sufficient time for goals to start improving. So specifically for goal setting, you have to give it a longer period of time. So I think the point I'm trying to make is when you measure things and when you do research, make sure that the change that you want to measure and observe, there's sufficient time for it, which then becomes an expensive endeavor, obviously. So I'm lucky that I have the university at my disposal and I can do research in parallel to commercially developing. But one has to plan it very carefully and make sure how long and what you measure.
Good, and certainly the research you and Alex plan to conduct together will give us some more insights into efficacy and effectiveness. Alex or Harry, would you like to comment on that?
Yes, I can add some comments on the. So first of all, soft skills and goals are very hard to measure, even by human. So. And as Nicky said, a goal is not achieved in a day and also not in a few weeks. So what we provide in the app already today are self-assessments, which are matching to the growth profile. So people can do the self-assessments and they can repeat it every 2-3 months, or they can assess their current mood at the moment and then compare the trends. Which is a more quick thing. But what we do, and this is very interesting, so we cannot see if somebody now becomes rich just because they do daily coaching, but qualitative, as we are improving the AI and we are taking out snippets of the reactions of the people, we can qualitative see that people are changing in their expression. While in the beginning, and first-time chatters just say yes, no, maybe, I don't know, I'm tired, I'm busy. They start with the process of self-coaching. They start articulating what their matter is, and that is a very big sign that they actually become confident in writing down their thoughts and articulating what matters. And this happens already after much shorter time. Which is already a big success. And this is what we aim to show and demonstrate, where we also in the long term want to show behavioral change that the AI detects, and then present back to the client to show, look, this is how you answered this question a few weeks ago, and look now at your answer, which is great. And this kind of things can be measured, and so much possibility there.
Nice example. There's just so much data we can pick up by the use of technology and try to understand what's really going on for the user in ways that we weren't able to before. Alex, did you want to say anything about this?
Absolutely. I think for us, this is a super important area of this because as Harry just mentioned, like soft skills have been so far very, very hard to measure. However, what we believe is that it is actually possible to measure at least some of them. And starting with some really simple insights that we already have that can show progress. For example, people that start coaching initially, they tend to stack questions. Like we don't have thousands of people doing that, but we have a few hundreds who can tell you that, right? So they will ask a question that they have in their mind, then they will maybe not get the answer that they expect the person to give and ask a second one and then ask a third one, right? And they will do this process. We know, and we've seen super experienced coaches that have been doing this for 20, 25 years, hardly ever do that as a pattern, right? We know how talk time and the type of question change. We know some things around the way experienced coaches use both pauses but also challenges in a discussion, which is a really interesting thing. So what we believe is that we can start creating some actual robust measures, and some of them I think it's fair to say we already have, that show how someone is improving. What we're missing, and this is what Nicky is really helping us with, is some of these things. For example, I would imagine everyone on this call would agree that a coach that speaks half the time in a coaching discussion, it's hard to imagine that they're being a coach, right? I think we all agree that, right? Is it fair? It's more of a discussion. However, what is the difference? What happens when people start coaching and they are average 40-45% the first few times, and then they drop down to experienced coaches, which is between 25 and 28%, for example, right? That's for us an interesting, very objective measure. So if we can help, for example, new coaches get there faster, if we can help measure the way someone, as they grow, connects better with the clients, or even as part of a, an ICF potential accreditation or something like that, to help create some of those standards, then that we believe is very, very measurable. And that's a way to start measuring not everything, because human interaction is super complex and beautiful and intriguing, but some basic fundamentals which we think cut across models and potentially even cultures around how we connect. We think these are really measurable, and that's what we're up to learning from those interactions. And quite a bit of the work we're going to do with Nicky is actually trying to understand, and if we do this, what's the effect, right? How does it make things better or not? But let's find out.
Okay, and more nice examples of, as coaches, we've been pushed to accelerate outcomes, but there's also a way to potentially accelerate the outcomes of coach training, that coaches develop their skills more quickly. Unless someone else has another question they want to put in at this point, I was going to suggest we spend a few minutes on ethics, and it's come up a couple of times already, and where we can see that there are sets of codes of ethics for the world of coaching. There are codes of ethics for the world of technology. There are watchdogs on the world of technology. So I wanted to ask our three panelists how you navigate those different codes of ethics, and how they show up in your products and solutions.
Carol, can I, just suggest, just before you folks answer that, just because we had Jeff join us, just want to say hi, Jeff. Would you mind just, because at the beginning, we just all very briefly introduced ourselves, just to say which part of the kind of coaching system we represent on this call. So welcome.
Thank you.
We just ask you to just very quickly say who you are, and then we'll jump into the question, if that's okay.
Sure. My name is Jeff Quinn. I'm an executive coach in Los Angeles. I am not on the technology side, although I'm an angel investor in about 25 tech companies, so I'm familiar with the area space, and interested to learn more about the space for investment purposes as well. But mostly I'm here as a buddy of Carol. We've worked together for about 20 years, I guess, and a coach.
Brilliant, thank you. And sorry.
Thank you.
Great, thank you, Jeff, and welcome. Okay, so can we go back to the different collections of codes of ethics that are floating around, and how we make sure that these new solutions and products really demonstrate them? Anyone want to start that off?
Yeah, it's Alex, you want to go?
No, go.
No, it's interesting, Alex, and actually, I actually spoke about this recently. So I won't steal your thunder about what you think, because I think you have a beautiful view on it that you can share. But for me, look, even ethics in coaching, in human coaching, is challenging. One of my students recently did research on how supervision can help coaches to become more ethical in their practice, and it was interesting. The interview, she did 20 interviews, and just some of these things that came out there, how organizations are sometimes pressuring coaches to reveal confidential information and things like that. So coaching ethics is difficult. Ethics in technology, we know, is already difficult. Now we're combining these worlds. So there's no textbook answer for this. I think, and this, Alex, was your point when we spoke privately earlier.
And you have to add the ethics in business, which comes as a third level into it. That's
true.
That's where I see the most crucial. Yeah.
you're right, because as soon as there's money involved, ethics go out the window very often, right? So we have the perfect storm really for unethical things to be done. So for me personally, with Coach Vici, the principle is that I apply coaching ethics as a start to the AI coaching. So I wrote a paper on designing AI coaches. It was published in the International Journal of Evidence-Based Coaching and Mentoring. And one of the aspects there is where I looked at ethics in AI, ethics in chatbots, ethics in coaching, and created a little framework around that I strive for when I develop my AI. And then just very practically, I also consult lawyers and legal professionals around this to be sure. I mean, that's obviously the legal professional, it says that you complies with the law. It might still be unethical what you're doing, but I think at least we have to cover that base as well. So that in very short is just, it's an ongoing discussion and an ongoing gray area that we have to keep engaging.
Can I just segue? Sorry, Harry, go for it. Go for it.
Just wanted, as Nicky, myself, as we are part in this ICF AI coaching standardization group, the ethics in AI coaching is a big part of it. We as a group take care that we consider technological AI ethics standards, but also to ensure that something what labels itself AI coaching or similar is also following those guidelines in the future, including the coaching guidelines itself. And I think the work that we create there will be very leading for the future for this question of ethics. I mentioned business ethics. That's now another point. If the business is designed to bring value and to be profitable itself, there is no reason to put bad ethics on. But you know, Facebook and so on, the business is built upon getting your data, which itself is, I would say, already bad ethics. So the business model is also quite a matter. But anyway, I would say this the question is really answered by working groups which go into that, bring the eyes of many people into it and try to standardize it, in particular for that reason to ensure quality solutions and products out there.
Just to add a little perspective on this, and actually it's interesting that you mentioned the Facebook, right? Because I think for me, if you go back to a lot of the technology businesses that maybe have helped in some areas, but have created a lot of issues with ethics as well, they didn't start necessarily wanting to do that, right? They went down the path, like Facebook started with this idea, oh, we just create a tool and let the world use it. Guess what? The world might use it for horrible stuff, right? So for me, the key part, and this is the reason why, another reason why we engage with Nicky and we're building a group of external and internal advisors on ethics, is because we're combining business and coaching and AI. So there will be a lot of new questions that we're asking. And by definition, there's no way that we know what's next. And actually, I think it's actually quite wrong for the business working on it to try to answer that question themselves. Because it's very easy to be self-referential, to be on your own echo chamber. Oh, we do this, it's going to be fine. So I think the fundamental principle here is engaging broadly with people that have opposite views and opinions, that have different perspective on ethics. And I love Nicky's point, by the way, because regulatory and legal, many times there's a lot of regulatory and legal things, like what Cambridge Analytica did technically was legal in 2014, right? 15, 16, that's completely unethical, right? So I think for me, the idea of having already as part of your business models, open discussions with external advisors, with the board, with the principle of sharing and being very transparent about what data you collect, why do you collect, how do you do this, is the only way really to tackle that, because we will need to keep on learning together what is the right approach here. It's so difficult to be at this stage in a standard way and say, hey, this is right, this is wrong, because, and I can tell you, if I give you a very simple example, right? We start with the principle of the client's data, of course, is the most important thing. If the client tells us to delete something, we immediately delete it. We've had some coaches saying, well, wait a minute, I've also contributed to this session. What about the data that is used for my own professional development that is not linked necessarily directly to the client, right? That's an interesting point, right? That's a point to be discussed. It's not clear cut. It's not going to be black or white. So I think engaging externally, being super transparent, having the discussion, getting boards all around, apart from, of course, following, BPS has great guidelines in the UK, of course, for ethics in psychology and coaching. There is some models, ethics in research. But I do think we're going to be asking here in all three applications of this technology so many new questions that unless we have panels and groups like this one, like the ICF, like a broad range of people to help us answer them, there's no way that a business itself or a bunch of people can just make those decisions and carry on going.
It is complicated, as you've all said, and one of the things we've recognized long ago in FCC, but have yet to put together the session, is to bring together the subject matter experts in these areas, whether it's legal, an AI officer, a chief data officer of an organization, to help us learn more about this area and see what some of those landmines are that we could fall into. And so we are open to suggestions of speakers, our panelists on that topic, and also wanted to make the comment that we're obviously aware we have 3 male panelists here and would love to bring a female that has some expertise to bring into one of our panels in the future. We've got just under 10 minutes left, and I wanted to maybe shift us a bit more to the future and ask the panelists, we're trying to help people on the learning curve within FCC, bringing all people from all points in the system, go up the learning curve, make smart decisions about what, as a coach, what you bring into your practice, what you recommend to clients, whether you're sitting in an organization, what you invest in and advocate for within your organization. Any comments from our panelists, Nicky, Alex, or Harry? How can we be better learners about this? What are you seeing people struggle with as they start to learn about the technology and engage with it? And how can we accelerate and deepen? I hope those aren't conflicting objectives. Accelerate and deepen our understanding of technology so that we can help the entire coach community go up the learning curve.
I can go quickly on this one.
Please go, Alex.
I think, and I'll be very, very transparent. I think there is within coaching, I think there's less adoption of technology that I would expect from a profession that's all about change and growth and making a difference, right? What I would wish is to see, I think a lot more coaches really embracing. I know this group is doing that, but not everyone is, right? So I'd love to see a lot more coaches being really curious about how the technology can help. It's really telling that 2 years ago, had you asked someone, or maybe have you done a survey with thousands of coaches, what do you think about video coaching? Most would have said, oh, it doesn't really work. It's not the same. I don't think I could ever do it. Currently, I've spoken personally to more than 200 people over the last coaches over the last year, and 90% of them are saying, thanks God for video coaching. It opens up so many opportunities. Okay, it's going to be a hybrid model, but we really think there's value to it, right? And that is an indication, I think, of how sometimes we need to be forced into adopting a technology to understand how it works. So I wish them probably we could have more of those principles of coaching, of engaging with new things, being very curious and learning. I think that's the way forward, right? Just apply the fundamental coaching principles in technology as well as learning about humans and as improving.
Thank you.
I wanted to add that in particular, when people, coaches, everyone hears technology words like AI, machine learning, blockchain, we're putting a wall in front, something that is actually not that complicated. Yes, the technology might be complicated, but at the end, it's still software. It's automation. So when you talk about an AI coach, it's still a software which automates coaching at some point. And that's how you have to see these products. Is there a way where I can use automation for any kind of application? Is there a way that I can use software smartly to help the clients, to help the coach, to help the ecosystem? And then comes technology. Oh, this is better solved by AI, by machine learning. For this, classical software is enough. And there will come use cases where we'll bring blockchain into AI to store personal data, whatever. but at the end, it's always about a smart way of automation, which brings value and which makes sense of a business. And as a coach, that's how you have to see it, I would say, so simple. And there's no magic behind, because AI is also statistics put into software, nothing much more today. So yeah, think of it as good software solution, automation of sub-processes, and then it's much easier to approach new technologies.
I think just to add to what Harry was saying, I've got an hour and a 2-hour-long lecture on AI coaching that I do at universities. I did the keynote at Columbia University, for example, and Case Western. And what I always do is I start with a poll where I ask people to rate, the coaches in the audience, I ask them to rate their, their feeling on AI coaching, from it's great, I'm going to use it, 5 different options, to this is a very bad idea, we should stay away from it. And then there's always it's a typical bell curve, but there's always a lot more people on the skeptic side, thinks it's a bad idea. Then I always start my lecture with first explaining what AI is. And to Harry's point there, people have a misconception of what artificial intelligence is and what these technologies do. And once I've shown them the hype curves of Gartner, and I've shown them articles where it's basically artificial narrow intelligence is a very stupid thing, really. You get a self-driving car, but it can't make you a cup of coffee. How can we be afraid of these things? Then I do the poll again at the end, and I always shift the bell curve significantly to the more positive side. So we need to, people that are in the know, such as ourselves, should talk more about this. And thank you for this. I mean, we probably preaching to the choir here. What is the expression? Preaching to the converted. But we should get out there and talk to coaches, and bodies such as the ICF, AC, EMCC, Comensa in South Africa. ICF has done a great job with this working group standards that will be published soon. So they are also responsible. ICF has over 50,000 members. They must also create sessions, invite people like us so we can talk about it and tell people what the facts are.
Great, and we would hope that once the AI publication or guidelines is out from the ICF group, that we'd like to also convene a session within the FCC to really to take a look at that and digest that. One quick question, if we could hear from Alex, Harry, and Nicky, almost if you put your commercial hat on, what do you see what do you see in the future for coaching? What are some of your predictions? Again, thinking a bit more commercially.
Carol, sorry, can I then also line up Anton's question for us to quickly finish off?
Okay, why don't we jump to Anton's question, and we can take them off the hook for making predictions.
Well, perhaps there's a link there anyway, because one of the key factors in the maturity model I was talking about HR as a purchaser was that actually HR is a pretty poorly informed purchaser of most technology, and actually becoming an informed purchaser was quite key. One of the other associations I'm heavily involved in, which is the Association for Business Psychology, the ABP in the UK, ran a very interesting program last year called Red Flags, which was that organizations don't seem to be particularly smart at selecting psychometric tests. And so they ran a session there to highlight the red flags. I'm aware that the coaching technology products are appearing everywhere. I suspect few of them as well researched, as ethical and as developed as yours. And my concern is that those red flags are not yet understood by the purchasers to, if you like, discard the great salespeople, the pitches, the shiny, and differentiate their choices when they come to actually engaging with products that actually are well grounded in the way that we're hearing. And maybe the commercial link is to say, how can we develop smart purchasers so that your opportunities are increased as much as possible and the snake oil salespeople's are diminished?
Can I just make a very quick comment, which is this is very similar, Anton, with the discussion, how do you teach people to buy good coaches as opposed to any coaches, if you remember? And I'm addressing not only you, but everyone else, it's the struggle of educating the clients to buy the qualified coaches in the same way what you are saying is to buy the good technology rather than just any technology.
Good. So we only have a couple of minutes left. So if we could hear quickly from our panelists on these really important points.
I'll
maybe
one sentence answer on this. For me, we need to create objective data and measures. Otherwise, this will carry on. It's part of the core reason why Ovida exists, to be able to create objective data and measures on how effectively coaching interactions happen, but ultimately, what does it mean to interact well and have a great communication? And I think unless we get to a level where this becomes measurable, I think it's going to be very hard to be able to separate that across the board. So I think it's a very spot on question, and a very good barrier as well for the industry.
Yeah. Thank you, Alex. Nikki or Harry, anything you want to close on?
I believe I see different measures. Sometimes I read the coaching market is a $2-3 billion. I've seen $15 billion. It's huge and it's growing. Technology will become more and more part of that. I agree with Alex that we must do more research to convince people that it works, convince ourselves that it works. Coach Vici, for example, my chatbot coach, has been shown to be as effective as a human coaching goal attainment. So that's just the proof. So people can use it, right? Because it will benefit them. The point is, we have to figure out how much to charge for it. So, human coaching market is a good sense of what people are willing to pay. What are they willing to pay for AI coaching? And then very importantly is, like I said before, people like the ICF and the big coaching bodies, I think they have a responsibility, which we are doing, Harry, in that group of ours and Olivia, to certify almost these AI products. So there's as much trust as we can have in human coaches to these products as well. But I see a very bright future commercially for technology in coaching and AI coaching specifically.
Thank you.
Yes, so I would also say, one of our motives, and this is also a reason why I started, basically we bring executive coaching to everyone, no matter how big the pocket is. And today coaching, for me, I would say is still very exclusive and mostly sponsored by companies. What's with all these entrepreneurs in the world, freelancers, young managers who want to develop career, unemployed people who don't have money for coaching. And this is where I really see the market will change, which will make coaching even bigger as a market. Either it will bring more customers to coaching, or it will spread out coaching to a wider user base. Holistically, it will grow and bring even more value and benefits. And that will for sure happen in the next 5 to 10 years dramatically.
Thank you. I think there was a US president who said once he wanted to make the pie higher for people instead of making the pie bigger. Great. Well, we are at time here. Zoom won't kick us out. So if there is anyone that would like to stay on and continue to chat, great. I'm not expecting that our panelists that they probably do have back-to-back things booked today. We're going to download the recording, make sure that it's audible, do some quick checks on that, and share that with everyone. Everyone is welcome to follow up with each of our panelists, Harry, Alex, and Nikki, to learn more. And there is also the FCC webpage on LinkedIn. That's our LinkedIn group for you to add any comments, add any questions, or any suggestions for future sessions and future panelists. So I think on behalf of everybody, we really want to thank our 3 panelists for giving us their time today, introducing us to their products and solutions in a way that really helped us learn. And again, thank you for your time.